Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to go ahead and kick us off just a couple minutes earlier than we normally do so that everyone can get into the room and get settled. And because today we are going to be talking about how to tell stories in your marketing, how to be personal, how to make connection by sharing things that are beyond what you do and more about yourself and your life as a human being. I thought because the holidays are approaching, a fun thing we could do to kick us off would be for all of us to share what is the number one present you are most excited to give this holiday season. So it can be something big, small, kids, family, friends, coworkers, gift of time, whatever it is. Share in the chat with us. What are you most excited to give? And I will go first while everyone is thinking. So my mother-in-law's mom passed away this summer, due to it wasn't like COVID related or anything. She had a stroke, unfortunately, but she lived far away anyway. She didn't get to see her that often. And I found a company on Etsy that will take someone's handwriting and turn it into really anything you want. So I have a necklace that was made for her that's like a gold bar that has her mom's handwriting that says "Love Mom." And I'm so excited to give that to her this year. So that is my gift that I'm most excited to give. Justin, please share, what is something you're excited to give without spoilers if there's somebody who could be watching?
How am I going to top that? So what I'm most excited about giving is to my two oldest boys. So they love gaming. They're into Fortnite. I hate it, but it is what it is. So actually I'll show you, all of our gifts are being delivered here. And the bottom two are these Fortnite gaming chairs. And the reason I'm excited to give it to them is I know they're going to freak out when they see it. So knowing what their reaction is going to be makes me super excited to give them those.
Oh, I love that. And Justin and I were talking too while you're sharing these, and I'm going to read some of them. Tell us, does Santa wrap the presents in your house or leave them unwrapped? So in my house, they're wrapped. Justin said when he was growing up, they were unwrapped if Santa brought them. Very curious in what everybody else has to say. So Obama's new book, I want to read that. I have to know if it's good. A new warm coat for my wife. She's often cold. I am usually cold too. It must be, well, I shouldn't say that. Okay. Let's just see. The Snuggie. See, I was going to say it must be a wife thing. We're always all cold. What else are people saying? An experience gift, Deanna, all kinds of interesting things to do in Pittsburgh. We didn't even know we're here. I love that. I gave my husband one year for Father's Day. It was 12 non-daddy date nights. So it was 12 nights basically without the kids. And we did every month. I had like a babysitter plan and what we were going to do. And it was it benefited me too, but it was a fun gift to give. Comfy clothes for my granddaughter in her school colors. Awesome. Well, we can go ahead and get started, but I wanted to open with a question and kind of give you all a sense of something like this to ask on social media would be a great thing that you could ask your community to get people to start commenting. And it doesn't have to be obviously this kind of question. For instance, if you are based in maybe a more small town, you could say something like, I'm looking for a really fun, personalized, unique gift to give my mother-in-law this year, who has a great idea. Even better if it's from a local business, and people might tag the local businesses. You start a conversation and you allow people to connect with you on something that's a shared experience that all human beings have. If you take away nothing from today, remember that social media and email and all the things we do online operate honestly in the same way that our offline experiences happen. We're human beings. We want to connect with other human beings over stories. And so stories should be at the heart of all your marketing. And you could sign off now, but you'd miss all the main things that Justin's going to teach us. But that really is the heart of what we're talking about today. So I'm so excited to have you here, Justin. And just a couple housekeeping items before we do formal introductions. If you have any questions at all, you can put them in the chat box, and then both Justin and I and everybody else on today will be able to see them. Amanda Larson, who's our director of marketing, is in the background, and she can answer questions there. We also have the Q&A box, which are private. So you can send those just to us as the presenters, and we will be the only ones to see them. So feel free to use either method and also communicate with each other in the chat. Let's make this fun and worth everyone's time. So this is being recorded in case you need to step out, and any of the resources that we mentioned, we will also share with you after the fact as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in. For those of you that may this be your first webinar or the first time joining us, I'm Samantha Russell. Since the recent acquisition, if you have not heard the news, 20 over 10 was acquired by FMG Suite. My new title is Chief Evangelist of both 20 over 10 and FMG. I'm still getting to learn a lot about FMG's products and services, so I still know 20 over 10 best. But I'm excited to be in this role and really just get to spend even more time working with all the great advisors like all of you about how to use marketing to grow. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn at those two locations. And it's enough about me. Let's get Justin talking. So Justin, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I've been waiting for my opportunity to come talk to 20 over 10 and hang out with you. So Samantha has done a number of pieces of content with me on Advisor of Tomorrow. She's been to the AGC. So we've had a chance to dialogue, and it's always fun. So I enjoy it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Castelli, obviously. I'm the founder and financial advisor at RLS Wealth. It's a registered investment advisor based in Fishers, Indiana. Fishers, Indiana is about 30 minutes northeast of Indianapolis. I've lived in Indiana my whole life, haven't ventured too far away. I'm also the co-founder of an online community for financial advisors called the AGC. You can find me on Twitter at Justin Castelli with 10 as 10 in there, and LinkedIn, on Instagram and stuff as well. But those are the main places that I hang out. But being a financial advisor, marketing and doing the stuff we're going to talk about today was not something that I started my career doing. It's something that I've grown into and I absolutely love. I learned a lot from Samantha, so I think today's conversation is going to be a lot of fun.
Likewise, yes. We're so excited to have you here and tell more of your story. So we did get a couple questions in advance. If you have any questions, again, feel free to drop them in and they will come up, I'm sure, as you hear more about Justin's story. So Justin, this is sort of a timeline of your career, very, high level, but let's talk a little bit through it. So I'm going to ask you some questions as we go through. So 2004, you land your first job at an insurance-based firm. And then by 2007, you were committed that you were, going to go independent. What are some of the initial things that you learned that you liked about, financial services in general, initially in those jobs? And were you already starting to think about how you might market your business over time?
I fell into being an advisor. I went to college, a small liberal arts school south of Indianapolis, played basketball. So I went there to play ball, thought I would go to law school, met my wife, decided no more school, this is serious. And then I just started networking thanks to my dad, and ultimately found this position of being a financial advisor. And just the description of working with people, solving problems, not having a normal day-to-day, it's that really excited me. So I just dove in. I went around and dropped resumes off at different offices to try to get my first job, and was at the insurance-based firm. I didn't really decide that I wanted to go independent until I was at actually a 403B company. And the reason why is I just felt there was a way that I wanted to work with my clients that I knew a corporation was not going to allow me to do. I also felt that I was relying too much on the corporation for my ultimate success, because where I was at, they could take away a school group or reduce the number of clients I have, not because I did anything wrong. So I wanted to be totally in control. Marketing, branding, all of that stuff was never in my mind. I just thought I want to be out on my own and my business will grow through traditional ways. Okay. It wasn't until 2010 that came up.
Yeah. So, okay, let's jump up there. So 2010, you discovered the Reformed Broker. Please let us know in the chat if you have watched any of the Reformed Broker on YouTube, or you've, explored Twitter or social media. I think most people have, but I'd love to, or maybe just tell us if you haven't. But tell us how that changed you. What did that do to change the story in your mind?
So when I discovered the Reformed Broker, that's the blog that Josh Brown of Ritholtz Wealth Management started writing, I think back in 2007. But when I read that, it was the first time I'd ever seen somebody explaining finance in a way that was fun and entertaining. And I ultimately thought, this is awesome. I want to do this. And that was the first time I ever came across like a financial blog, which then led me to social media and finding Twitter and finding this whole world of advisors that were sharing their best practices, sharing what their knowledge was to, ultimately grow their business. But that felt comfortable to me because I'm not very aggressive. I'm not going to cold call. I'm not going to go to happy hours. So that content idea really jumped out to me as something that would be fun and something that'd be, comfortable for me and I would enjoy.
Yeah. And I mean, he was totally ahead of the curve, ahead of the game. Blogging was like just taking off in 07, 08. And I remember, hearing about him maybe 5 years ago myself for the first time. But if you go and you watch Rich Wealth Management's like YouTube channel, for instance, they do such a great job, and it's gonna be a theme here of, you'll see they might have 5 things they're going to talk about in today's video, and it could be whether the new stimulus bill is going to pass, what's going on with the jobs report, and then it'll be something like funny about basketball or something about what one of their kids did over the weekend, and then they go back to another economic topic. And, the things that get the most comments are often the pop culture references or the sports references or the personal storytelling references, but they're woven in to the other subjects. And I'm sure that's probably part of what attracted you to it as well.
Yeah, you could see his personality right out the gate. So not only was he sharing stuff that I was interested in, like I knew I was going to like him just by the way he communicated, because the way you write a blog, if you want, can be more conversational. So you're getting a feel for what he's like, who he is through that. And I liked it. So that made me want to read more and follow him more and all that stuff.
Yeah. So when it comes to your own firm, just a few short years later, I stopped sharing the timeline here because I'm going to pull up your website and some of your content. Tell us a little bit about founding RLS Wealth Management.
So there was a short stint at an independent firm, didn't work out. So that's when I launched my firm. And RLS, it started as RL. Roman and Leo are my 2 oldest boys. Silas was born in 2017, so I rebranded. But one of the first things I did when I launched my firm was launch a blog. I initially launched it on my website, and then I launched All About Your Benjamins on its own, mainly because I saw that's what Josh and those guys were doing. And I thought that's how you do blogging, is you have it on its own and have its own identity and brand. But I launched that in January of 2016. And the whole goal there was I just want to talk about things that are going on, explain, share my expertise, have fun, and let people get to know me. And then from there, the blog turned into a podcast, turned into videos, and keeps on going, which we'll get into in a little bit. But that was like day one, I knew I was going to write.
I love, I've used your website as an example before. So what I love here is that you've written it in such a way that's very modern and fresh feeling. So, you land on it, many dream, few pursue, where you're a financial champion for life's pursuits. And then, let's talk. And then you have even in here like emojis. Nobody uses emojis on a financial advisory website. And so you're really hyper-focused on, being authentic and being yourself. Do you have a certain type of client that you're targeting?
So with this website was a fresh rebrand of who RLS Wealth is going to serve. Before, I didn't have a niche, but going forward, the niche that I want us to serve is more mindset driven. So as you read through the copy and you go through the website, who we're trying to target are people that want to take control of their lives. They don't want to be boxed in by what society says they're supposed to do. They're entrepreneurs, they're risk takers, they're trailblazers. So it's more of a mindset. And then from there, as the firm grows, I think that we'll have niches within that. So we'll have, let's just say we have entrepreneurs who have that, and maybe we have people who are in technology, but they still have that mindset. It's more about a mindset of who we work with rather than a specific demographic.
Okay. So you started your business. Was content marketing like immediately what your go-to was? Was it rough going? Was it hard to get, the first few clients? How did it go initially after the launch?
I was fortunate that I had about 30 clients that followed me and about 7 million in assets under management. And I forgot to mention that. I'll loop into the business size and stuff just for perspective. But so I had a little start, but that was it. I went back and got some of my old clients from the 403B company, but then content was the way for me to grow. So referrals and content. And I can remember the first 2 clients I got off of a blog post. And we'll talk about, well, I'll share that. I wanted to write like more investment focus. And the 2 blog posts that immediately turned into clients, one was around 529s, why you should have a will before you start a 529. Someone I went to high school with saw it. So it was a natural network, and they were getting ready to go to Mexico, had 2 girls, didn't have a will, called me for a referral to an attorney and said, oh, by the way, we don't like our advisor. When we get back, can we meet with you? And they've been clients for 5 years. Another one was around the red flags of life insurance. So not to bash life insurance, but just to say, hey, oftentimes life insurance can be misused. Here's some things to be aware of. Another client was being pitched whole life insurance by a bank. He was an engineer. The numbers just didn't work. So we had a conversation. He became a client as well. So it didn't take long to get a couple clients. It took a while to get a lot of traction on it. So the content game is more of a long game. You gotta be committed to it for a while to start to see the results.
I always tell people, it's kind of like investing. If a client came to you and gave you a sum of money and then they came back to you a month later and they're like, okay, tell me, have I hit my goals? What have the outcomes? There's an exponential nature to growth with marketing, just like investments, where it can feel like it's taking forever and it's tedious to start. But then all of a sudden you hit the snowball effect and it just rapid fire. And the thing about the switch in behavior for people today, and I'm sure you've seen this, right, is that people no longer want to be sold to. They don't want to be, they don't want to go through a sales call with why they should work with you. They want to find people that fit what it is that they're looking for. So we go online, we have a problem, we search for an answer, like you mentioned, that article. And then based upon who gives us the best information is who we're going to potentially work with. So we had a question come in that I think is a great time to ask this. And let me read the question. This question says, how do you use digital marketing to attract high net worth or ultra high net worth investors? In my experience, people with $10 million or more are generally finding a financial advisor via referral. What would be your thoughts on that? So Justin, I'll let you give us your thoughts.
So I have to be honest, I don't have firsthand experience of digital marketing attracting somebody with 10 million or more in assets. I have clients with over 1 million assets that it has, but not to that level. I would say they're ultra high net worth are probably still going to Google. Not everybody wants their friends to know how much money they have, so they may not be asking for a referral. Also, people don't know what their peers have. So I may not know that somebody else has 10 million assets to ask them who their advisor is. So they're still going to go to default. I know of advisors that have gotten clients off of their content at 7 or 8 million in assets. Another thing I would add, if it is a referral that your name is given to them, the first thing they're going to do at that point is then go Google you. They're going to go look at your website. They're going to look at what's there. And I don't care how much money you have. If you as an advisor have a library of content where that individual can get to know you through the storytelling we'll talk about ahead of time, that content will only strengthen that referral. So they get a referral from somebody they trust and they get to check you out and they like you. It's almost a done deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. Regardless of if they're referred or not, they're going to your website, they're looking you up on LinkedIn. I mean, who's not going to do a Google search on someone that they're going to trust their wealth with? And what are they going to find? That content that you share needs to reinforce what it is you're doing. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that you will end up getting people who are just doing a Google search, because at the end of the day, especially as we age up with technology, people who are having that kind of wealth, who grew up in an age where Google was always there, they're going to go back to habits. It's like, if they're used to always Googling answers, they're going to continue to do that. So that's still going to be part of their search process. So great question.
I would throw in one more thing real quick. If that's the audience you want to go to, then maybe the reason they haven't found you before through a Google search or social media is you haven't been writing to their questions. So if that's your audience, then don't write to stuff that they don't care about. Write to their pain points, write to things that they might be Googling, because somebody with $20 million is having different problems than somebody with 500,000. So write to that $20 million client's problems and what they're experiencing, because I'm sure they're going to be Googling answers, because that's just what we do today. So you just need to write to that audience.
Yeah. And Scott, I'm going to butcher your last name, Scott, sorry. Morazak said we had a $40 million client come in from Google search. So right there, don't take our word for it. Thanks for sharing that. That's fantastic. So I'm going to pull up your timeline again. We're going to finish going through the timeline, and then I want to get more into specifically how you weave stories into your content, because you do it so effortlessly, but it's not effortless for all of us, which I totally understand. For some people, sharing more openly comes more naturally than others, which, again, I totally understand. So let's just pull that timeline up one more time. So we've talked about how you launched RLS Wealth Management and you started blogging. Tell us all about your Benjamins.
So All About Your Benjamins is, the vision for that was, I just want to write to educate people, let them get to know me. And then I believe that if I did a good job, that would translate over to business. I don't think there's a right answer to should your blog be on your website or should it be separate. You just kind of roll with what you're comfortable with. I liked writing All About Your Benjamins off of my website because I felt like I could just write about whatever I wanted and there was no ulterior motive to get people to sign up. If they wanted to work with me, there's a way to get over. Fast forward to my website today, there actually is a blog on the new RLS Wealth website, and the whole topic there is going to be centered around purpose and money and how all those things interact, because the people we want to work with, they're going to be interested in that. So that topic matter doesn't really fit fully on All About Your Benjamins. So I maintained it being separate. I did want to point out 2019, I'm going to hop ahead, like the entrepreneur's blueprint. So I put that on this timeline because I wanted to stress how much I believe in content marketing and doing this, that I had a vision of working with entrepreneurs. So once I figured that that was going to be my niche, the first thing I did was launch a new blog and a new podcast that was centered around the topics that entrepreneurs that I would want to work with would be interested in. And ultimately, I pivoted and decided I didn't want to go in that route. And that's when I founded the AGC and decided that I wanted to work a lot more with financial advisors and hang out in that area rather than grow with entrepreneurs. But that was one of the first things I did. And then you see in 2020, I launched Advisor of Tomorrow blog and podcast. Again, whatever venture I'm pursuing and whatever I want to grow, I'm going to launch a blog and I'm going to launch a podcast, and I'm eventually going to be doing videos as well, because that fits my personality. And I've seen nothing but positive feedback for myself and others.
And I love that you've said, because I enjoy doing it, because I do understand that for many of you, and you can raise your hand if it's one of you, many advisors tell me, like, I don't like to write. I don't want to be in front of a camera. I just want to advise my clients. I don't want to deal with this marketing stuff, but I know I need to grow my business. So if you stick around, we'll talk about what tools we have that we can offer you that really help you do this, where you just add the personalization in and you don't need to be doing all this from scratch, but you can have similar results that Justin is having. So we'll make sure, stick around, and we'll show you more of that at the end, the tools that we have that can help you accomplish these things. So some of the questions that have come in, I'm going to pull your site back up because there's one I want to show people is, how often are you posting, and what particular content right now are you focused on posting to your RLS blog?
Right. So I'm going to tell you, do as I say, not as I do. I am not good at a regular schedule for content. I am consistent. You will get content from me, but it's not going to be on a regular schedule. But what I've done is try to build in some consistency. So on All About Your Benjamins, I know we're not talking that, but every weekend I do a weekly mixtape. I have a video where I break down some of the headlines. I link to other great financial blog posts, and I always put pictures of my boys in, because that's really why people watch that or look at that blog post. But what we've started to do here, I pulled it back because of COVID, but to have at least one blog post on this website, we were doing this weekend in and around Fishers, Indiana. So a little bit of kind of trying to work some SEO in there. But the whole premise was, here's some stuff in and around our town that you could be doing. And I just felt like with COVID, that wasn't like the greatest thing to be doing anymore. But I'm going to do one this week and bring it back with, like, there's Christmas lights and stuff you can go see. But where I say, do as I say, not as I do, my colleague, I hired a young advisor. His name's Thomas. He joined in June. Day one, we launched him his own blog. It's his blog. He owns it. And we just recently launched him a podcast. He blogs once a week. Every week he has a blog. He's doing one podcast a month. And then we started an email newsletter for young professionals that he sends out in the middle of the month. And I'm making him do the consistency. So I look at myself as, I kind of like being creative. Let me try all these things, figure out what works, and then have other people implement it on a regular schedule. I would tell you, commit to a schedule that you can feel comfortable with. So we're talking mistakes. a mistake I made with Advisor of Tomorrow, my email newsletter. I started out every week and I did it religiously for about 10 weeks. Every Monday morning, an email went out. And then I just started getting busy with other things. I moved it to twice a month. And now it is a monthly email. So I overcommitted myself. We have good intentions. We want to do it. It's fun, but I would try not to overcommit. So make your goal to write one blog post a month and then get comfortable doing that. Find your voice, get your confidence, and then maybe bump it up. But in all that being said, you have complete permission to change your frequency and pivot because things come up. I changed my newsletter. I didn't have anybody drop off because of the frequency. I still get real good engagement because at the end of the day, the quality I think is good. So don't be afraid if you do overcommit, but I would start small because if you overcommit and you fail, it's easy to back off and give up and say, this isn't for me. So start small and crawl before you walk, build up that snowball, and then you can start doing more frequently.
So just two things I want to mention. I love this idea of this weekend in and around Fishers, Indiana. And I've had another advisor based in Iowa who does something similar in their local town. And what's great about this is if you're really trying to get a bigger footprint in your local community, all of these things that you're mentioning, now you can go post that on Facebook or wherever and tag the organizations putting those events on. And they will often retweet or repost or reshare or comment on whatever it is you've posted. And people in your community will start to see you as the person sharing what's going on in the community and may follow you just for that. And they might not even be a prospect for you, but their aunt might be, or their neighbor might be. And when they see that that person likes or comments on your post, they can be exposed to you. So just that mere exposure effect, this is a fantastic strategy for that. And I can tell all of you this, and most people will not do it. So, if you are one of the ones that does do it, you'll reap the benefit. The other thing with blogging that you mentioned that I think is so true, we have found that like the highest performers when it comes to digital marketing are adding original content to their websites at least twice a month. It's typically like the magic number, but you can get very similar results with just once a month. So even if you want to be in like the top 80%, once a month is great because most people are not doing it that often. So here I'm just showing you in the 20 over 10 app. Here's our blog section. If you are using 20 over 10 for your websites, you can add your own original content. You can upload video, you can write your piece, you can style it, add your photos. But then to help you, we also have something called Content Assist, which is basically like having a ghostwriter. So we have all of these pieces of content in here. You can take any single one of these and completely gut it. You can strip it down, rewrite it, change the title, change the image, put your keywords, whatever it is that you want to do. So let's just say, like, for instance,
And while you pull this up, I got fooled by one of your blog posts that made my mixtape. And I joke and say fooled. I'm a big believer in original content, but if that's not your strong point, something like this is great. And I don't use it. So this is just an unsolicited
right.
testimonial that it's good content. So I do my weekly mixtape where I look for other people's blog posts and curate for my readers. And I put one on there and come to find out I'm rereading it the next day. And at the very bottom, I see the 20 over 10 kind of like disclaimer that's down there, but I had no idea it wasn't written by the advisor. I would recommend if you have some interest in doing it, but you don't have the time or the confidence to write a full out post, definitely go in and since you can edit it, tweak some of the things to make it sound like you or add in some things that you would change, but use that as your template. I think this is a great place to start.
Yeah, I love that. And you told me that story offline and I was laughing because that happens so often. And really, it is partially that advisors work because they've edited it, they've made it their own. So, for instance, you could come in here and you could completely delete this whole section. You could write your own. Hey, everybody in Fishers, Indiana, thanks for following me all year. I know you're ready to ring in the new year, but here are, 3 things to consider before we get started. Blah, blah, blah. You could record a video of yourself talking about it and then insert the video in right here to make it really easy for people to follow along. And then once you create your post, just in case anybody is wondering about compliance, once you add anything, it doesn't actually go live on your website, even though it would show up on your in-build site here. It's not going to go live on your website until you go through the publish step. So if you're an independent RIA, you have the ability to self-publish. If you are associated with a broker dealer, they would need to approve it first. So just wanted to show you that, since I know many of you are not currently using 20 over 10's website platform. And if you have questions, marketing at 20over10.com would be a great place to ask those questions. Or if you just go to 20over10.com and you click schedule a demo, you can connect with one of our team members one-on-one, and we can go through all of your questions. But let's go back. You mentioned about your boys. And one of the things I wanted to highlight for everyone here, I've got your Twitter pulled up. Can you still see my screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So every single Friday, you do donuts with your boys. So can you talk a little bit? I know we're kind of skipping ahead, but talk a little bit about how you share personal stories and how things like this. I know there's a post that you have that's gone viral. Talk a little bit about how it shaped, your engagement with the community on social media.
Well, authenticity is something that's very important. People talk about it a lot, but it is very true. And I just have, like, my boys make me so happy that I just want to share my happiness with them and the fun things that we do. And I'm comfortable doing this. Not everybody's comfortable sharing their family, but I am. And honestly, it was positive feedback from followers and people and friends that keep me doing it. So, I named my firm after them. I have a lot of fun with them. We started doing this thing, and I just happened to post a picture of it once, sharing my life on a social media platform, and it got a lot of feedback. And I did it again, and it got more feedback. So it's kind of become a thing that if I don't do it on Friday, or if Silas isn't there because he's sleeping, people are asking, like, is Silas okay? Where's everybody at? Which, it can be a little weird, but these are people making a decision about whether or not they like me and what I stand for and who I am, and taking an interest in me and in my family. I'm building these relationships and these friendships with never meeting these people, just by sharing my life on social media. And I think that the people who do it best are able to, like you talked about, the Ritholtz guys, intertwining that professionalism with the personalism at the same time. I don't think you want to make social media your megaphone. I saw a couple of questions about how do you promote your content. I'll share my blogs on Twitter. I'll share my blogs on LinkedIn, videos. Below the boys is a advertisement for a podcast I did for Advisor of Tomorrow. I did some video for it. So I do both, but I try to make sure it's not just all look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm going to distribute it there. Same thing with LinkedIn, but I'm also going to engage with people. I'm going to share what I'm interested in and make it fun, make it social, because you're able to build these relationships with people just by doing things like this. So whether it is like you're a big golfer or you like to ride bikes, whatever it might be, sharing that. And then the final piece to that is, think about sharing your hobbies. Most of us want to work with people that we like and have maybe similar interests. So if you're constantly showing pictures of yourself biking, then somebody else on Twitter might see those and comment. And now you have this common bond. They start following you. You guys begin engaging. And now you are growing an audience with people who are interested in biking. And now you have a captive audience. And now you can convert those people to a newsletter, say, hey, I started this newsletter. Feel free to check it out. Give them an option to subscribe. And now you've moved them from Twitter to an email newsletter, which I slept on email. And I really, really like email. That's the most engaging content that I have as far as back and forth with people.
Yes. So many good tips. And the one that you shared made me think there's a Michael Kitcey's podcast and article where there is somebody who has built his entire business on fly fishing.
Yep.
I think you know what I'm talking about. And I think it's fantastic. And if you think about it, to really become very into fly fishing, it is a very expensive endeavor and hobby when you think about equipment and flying out west to these remote locations and being able to set up camp. And he was sharing about it, both in real life and on social media. And, it all kind of happened together. But again, going back to that, sharing more personal things, sharing a story, not being afraid to put some more of yourself out there is so important.
And that's the art of storytelling. I don't know what everybody thinks about when you hear storytelling. One of the first books I read when I entered the profession was Storytelling for Financial Advisors, Mitch Anthony. I can't remember if it's storytelling or story selling, but nonetheless, selling through telling stories. Like if you're trying to get somebody to do an investment, tell a story about how that fits in there. And we want to hear stories. That's one way to storytell. When I talk about storytelling from an advisor standpoint, to me, the story you're telling is it's your why. Like, why are you a financial advisor? What is it that you love about the profession? How do you help your clients? What's it like to work with you? What are you like as a human being? Like, you're telling the story of you as a professional and you as an individual. And that's the type of storytelling I think that really moves this forward. So there's different types of storytelling, but I think you're just telling your own personal story while you educate people along the way.
Yes, yes, I love that. All right, so I'm going to actually go back to the slides again, and I want to talk a little bit about some mistakes.
Yes,
so
this is my favorite slide.
yes, the part that people, I was promoting this heavily because I do think it's so important to learn from mistakes. And one of my favorite quotes is, I can't remember actually how it goes, which says a lot, but the fact that you should, it's okay to learn from your own mistakes, but it's great to learn from other people's, hear other people's mistakes. You don't have to make them yourself. So I think one of the things that holds back people so much in marketing and taking a little bit more risk is they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake, or they're going to look dumb, or it's not going to hit the mark, or no one's going to care. So talk to us a little bit about tell us a story about a mistake you've made and what you've learned.
I'm going to hit all of these real quick. We already hit frequency over commitment, so we can mark that off the list.
Okay.
When I first started, I knew I wanted to create content, but I didn't know who I was as a writer or a content creator. Didn't have my voice. So I looked at the people that I admired the most and I tried to write like them. And it wasn't very easy. It wasn't very good, but going through that exercise allowed me to find my voice. So I would say one of my first mistakes was trying to be a Michael Batnick writer and write about investment only, and try to be like Josh Brown and be super witty when that's not the way that my mind works. So I was trying to write like them when I needed to write like me. And then the other thing is, don't look to those other people and judge your success by what their success is. Creating content is designed to help in digital marketing grow your business. You may not have the goal of having $1 billion firm. So why are you looking at $1 billion firms to determine what your success is? Success is relative to what you're trying to accomplish. So a podcast with only 100 downloads every time, but there are 100 engaged listeners that really care about what you have to say, is a more valuable podcast than a podcast with 20,000 downloads, but nobody's really paying attention to. Like, they listen to it, but nothing happens. So you create your own metrics. You figure out what you want to accomplish, and then you judge yourself on your own. The flash briefing was just something that I dove into. So if you don't know, a flash briefing is basically like a mini podcast on the Amazon devices. So I had one for RLS Wealth. I wanted to break down news topics and just have one every day because Danny Fava told me that voice is the future. So I wanted to be ahead of the game on everything. And I started doing it for a while, every single day. And then it was once a week, and then it just kind of dropped off. And I think my mistake there was I was trying to get into something that my audience didn't care about. Nobody was listening to it, even though I marketed it, because that wasn't where they were getting their information. So I was trying to force a new innovative way to communicate on my audience that they didn't want. So I shut it down. I'll bring it back in the future if I find out that they want it. I think it'd be cool to be ahead of the game on it, but there's no sense in spending time and effort and energy on something your audience isn't ready to use yet, just to say you have it. And then my subscription course. So I mentioned that when I pivoted away from entrepreneurs, I wanted to turn my focus helping other advisors. That's what excites me the most. And I created recently a subscription course, or a course on making a subscription model. It's 8 videos. I put a lot of time into it. I think it's great, and I know it will help people, but the marketing is where I failed. I just thought that I can lean on my advisor newsletter, the AGC, and my natural network of advisors. And I just wanted to sell a beta of 10 members. And I didn't sell 10. And what I realized and what I learned from that was you can't just rely on what you've already done, that foundation I laid. And the reason for that is I was marketing it to the wrong audience. My audience already knows about a subscription model. They aren't looking to build that and add that in there, because if they were, they'd already have it. My audience for that course is living over on LinkedIn. They're over in the wirehouses thinking of breaking away, or the independent firms that want to start their own firm. They don't know it's there. Like, that's who I need to get to. So the lesson to me was you have to go back and figure out, how am I going to market this? And I'm going to dive into something I've never done before. After I finish the beta round and improve the course, I'm going to do some targeted ads. I'm going to buy some keywords. I'm going to follow advisors around on Instagram with videos talking about subscription models and how it can help their business. And I'm going to market in a way that I've never done before. But it's all the feedback from, I got a little bit ahead of myself and let my head get too big that I thought, it'd be real easy to sell 10 courses, and it didn't. But I'll be back and I'll sell a bunch of them because I'll figure out how to get it to the right audience.
Well, I love your, telling us your mistakes. And a few people have talked about their own mistakes in the chat, maybe not even thinking about it. People are saying, what about ads? I haven't gotten anywhere with ads. If you've tried out ads, Facebook ads or Google ads, and really haven't gotten any business, let us know in the chat. Or if you've tried them out and maybe something great has come from them, let us know. Because a mistake that I made really early on when we launched 20 over 10, we had a very small, scrappy budget. And I was spending $2,000 a month or $2,500, somewhere around there, on Google ads. And guess what? After three or 4 months, I let it go on way too long, spending thousands of dollars we didn't have to spend. We got no qualified leads, none. And there was a lot of things behind it. We were sending people to a build your own website platform. This is very early days, 20 over 10. We didn't have designers on staff that could build them for you. We thought financial advisors wanted to build all of their own websites. So huge mistake. We had to pivot. But I think the lesson learned here is you do have to try new things. And then, quickly you can pivot. And actually, it's funny, the subscription-based model is my number one trend for advisors to think about for 2021 when it comes to marketing. And a lot of people are still really excited to use ads. And what I tell most people is that I personally have found that, unless you're doing retargeting. So for those of you that don't understand what retargeting is, it's cookies that are on these websites. They can track who's visiting you, and then we can show you ads when you go on, you leave our site and your other places. So if you go to 20 over 10 today and you look at something, you might see an ad for 20 over 10 next time you're on Facebook, or if you're on the NewYorkTimes.com. And those are the only kind of ads that I personally think really move the needle, because you're already, getting in front of an audience that's already seen your information before. So if you're going to do any ads, those are the type of ads that I suggest.
I think the ad game's going to take a while because you've got to fine tune things. So my wife owns her own business. It's a boys clothing store, and she's been doing Facebook ads with an agency, and they've been tweaking and changing things. It takes time to figure it out. I don't think you can buy some Facebook ads and expect to have a quick ROI on it. It's going to take time, and you're going to have to fine tune your audience and who it goes to. So with anything in this realm, it's going to take some time and some consistency to figure it out. But I think about like buying keywords. So for the subscription course, I haven't checked it recently, but I don't think like buying keywords on XY Planning Network and NatFagenesis are very expensive, because not a lot of people are competing for that. And they have huge SEO already because of their entity. So my plan is to buy some keywords related to that. So if somebody searches XYPN or NatFagenesis, there'll be an ad for a subscription course that pops up, because somebody who's looking at those places may be interested in doing a subscription model for their clients, and a course might just be the thing they need to help them build it. So you might have to get a little creative with how you target those ads. It may not be as obvious as Financial Advisor and Fishers, because that'll be real competitive, but there might be some things you can do unique to your audience that you can put yourself in when they're searching for other things. So fly fishing guy, he could buy some keywords to put himself in around like fly fishing materials. Has nothing to do with what the search are doing, but that individual is looking for things for fly fishing, and then he pops up there.
Right. So we went off on a little bit of a tangent, but that's okay. Those are where we learn. And I see, lots of interest in ads. So I'm glad we had the conversation. So let's talk a little bit now about, what you have found of all the things that you are posting on social media or emails that you send. And I'll move to the next slide. Like, what are you finding really gets people engaged? And not just people, but really qualified prospects.
So it's been so far, I'm going to pull a little bit from Thomas because I've been helping him. So a lot of his content has been centered around young professionals. What do young professionals need? What are they thinking about? He's a young professional. So it's just thinking of your ideal client who you want to be working with and writing about the problems that they have. Maybe you know them because that's who you work with. Maybe you take a question from a meeting and you turn that into a piece of content. I wrote a blog post last night that's got a lot of great feedback. That was about tax gain harvesting. We all talk about tax loss harvesting. The idea came from, I was meeting with a client 2 days ago, and we're going to take $90,000 in capital gains. They're going to pay 0% taxes on it because of where they fall. It's going to save them like $13,000 in taxes. I was like, how many people don't even know that this is an option? We think about harvesting losses, but not gains. That blog post that's getting good feedback came from a meeting with my client. And obviously I don't talk about them, but the idea came from it. So if you have an audience, what are their pain points, and try to educate them. I also think that you don't want to make your content salesy. Again, social media, social network, digital marketing, it's about building relationships with people that you don't know. So you need to educate while entertaining and showing your personality. I think the email I mentioned, email newsletters, I didn't think they were that great because I hate email, but on my Advisor of Tomorrow newsletter, I get so much feedback on it every week. And Thomas is getting a lot of feedback on his monthly newsletter. And we're going to start another email newsletter for RLS Wealth because I'm seeing the success behind it.
We have found, like for instance, we'll promote this on social media. We might get 10% of all webinar signups. So today, 300, and I think it ended up being like 45 people registered for today's event. Of those 345, maybe 30, maybe 50 will come from social media. It's a little bit more when we have somebody else who's promoting it as well, but the vast majority come from email. So as much as people get inundated by email, their inboxes are overflowing, if you provide something timely, we find for most people, that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck for sure.
Another thing that's been a big success, a lot of times people ask, how do you have time to do all the social media and the content? When you start doing it a lot, you get more efficient. So it doesn't take as long to do a video or a podcast. But then I've started trying to schedule out some of my social media posts. And I only want to really schedule out the distribution of my content so that the time I'm spending, networking and engaging with people is actually having conversations and adding value, and that the circulation of my content is just on autopilot. So I use a website called Buffer to do that. I'm on the pay. I think I'm on the free version even, and I can do my Twitter. I can do LinkedIn. So I can sit down at the beginning of the week and say, okay, I want to make sure that this blog post gets out 4 times this week. Create the tweet, set it out there, and take 30 minutes at the beginning of the week and have a week's worth of content distribution taken care of, so that I know that stuff's going to be found and circulating.
I love that, and I'm going to show everybody who's here today. So as Justin mentioned, he uses Buffer. Something that I'm really, really honest with everyone about is there's a million different tools that you can use for marketing. Of course, I happen to think our tools are great and I would love everyone to use them, but with Buffer, they do have a free option. So that's great if you're just looking for a social scheduler. We have something called Lead Pilot, which is one of the products under 20/10, where you can schedule content out to post to both social media and email all in one panel. So let's say, this is a fun one. Here's how your insurance company would handle these different mishaps. So if Santa fell off the roof, what would happen? You could also schedule your own blogs, your own video, but you come over here to share. And you can see, do I want it to go to Facebook, Twitter, and email? Do I want it to go to all my contacts, or just people that are 65 and older, just my golfing buddies, just people that work at a certain company? So you can create different lists and different smart segments that auto update, however you want to do it. So let's say we put it to new prospects. You can also customize the messaging. So you can change what this says. You can use hashtags. You can tag people, all kinds of fun stuff here. And then you can either post it now or schedule it for later. So we might say, okay, we're going to schedule it for the 23rd and we're going to do it at 1:46 p.m. And then you go in and you click schedule, and you can schedule out in bulk a lot of these different pieces. Now, the great thing is that you can do this for your own content. So just use it as a distribution tool, or you can use the content that we have in the library. Again, if you're not a content creator and you need a leg up. So whether you use Buffer to schedule the content in advance, if you use a tool like ours, the main point is getting ahead of it a little bit. So Justin, you mentioned you do it every Monday. We have people that do it once a month. Try to get in a habit of having at least some pieces pre-scheduled so that you're not scrambling every day to fit it into your day-to-day routine. Awesome. So somebody's asked about, do you notice that, let me just see the question here, with clients or prospects that are 55 or older, who maybe are not on all these social media platforms. And again, you're looking at more of a psychological type of niche than maybe just a certain age demographic. But do you have clients that are 55 or older that are engaging with you on social media anywhere, or is this a different segment?
The 55 and older crowd is not so much engaging on social media, but they're reading the blog. So I dropped in the chat that two of my clients that came to me with over $1 million were both over 65, and they both came from the blog.
That's awesome.
So I don't know exactly. I didn't want to press them too much, but I don't know exactly how they found the blog. But they were reading the blog, and one of their comments was the blog led them to my website, and the final deciding factor for him to call me to have an intro call was the fact that I had my family on the website, which goes all back to being authentic and genuine. Is that I'm very much like, my family is the center of everything. Of course, I'm going to put my whole family on my website, not just me. Now, my new website doesn't have the whole family, but that's because it's different. It's different marketing now. But he commented on that, and that was just a normal thing for me to do. So I just think that 55 and older, they're on Facebook. They're looking at their grandkids. You know, stereotypically, the young kids have moved off Facebook and their Instagram and TikTok, but the older community is on Facebook. So maybe you don't want to do ads, but maybe you want to create a Facebook page for your practice that you can direct people to, and you can put your content there. So while they're on there checking on their granddaughter's, dance recital, you come up on their feed and they read an article about some changes to, whatever, this year not having RMDs or whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
they're on social media. They are social. You just have to figure out where they are.
I love that tip. And one thing we've helped a lot of our clients do, I just pulled it up here, is to incorporate what we call meet the team posts. So it's a great way to feature different people behind the company. I mean, we all know that financial services in general is becoming more and more commoditized, and people are looking, again, we all know this at its core, they want to do business with people that they know and like. So on our blog, on 20 over 10's blog, you'll find these meet the team posts where we interview different staff members, they share pictures, they answer questions. And we had one of our largest enterprise customers who read all of these for our C-suite, and they said that was the main reason, just to your point, that they chose us over someone else, was because we were willing to get personal. They felt like they could know us. They felt like they would like us. So, these kinds of things are evergreen. And then when you meet a new client, or you have a meeting with a new prospect, you could even say, hey, I know we had a great conversation. I was able to learn more about you, just in case, you're interested. Here's a little bit more about me. I know I mentioned my love for biking, but here's a post that goes a little bit more into this, or you share it on social media. So that's an easy way to kind of dip your toe in if you're just getting started on this route to using personalization.
Let people get to know you. On our website, myself, Thomas, and Darlene all created Spotify playlists that we put on the website under the get to know us part. So you've got our little bio that each of us wrote our own. And then we have like social media and then a Spotify playlist, so you can see what kind of music we like. Just another way to get to know. Another idea from like get to know the team is, if you have like a corporate Instagram account, let your teammates take over the Instagram account for a day. So let the administrative assistant take it around and start it at home when they're getting ready with their kids, and just let people into their lives a little bit, because that just builds that bond.
Yeah, I love anything that is a website that will kind of cut through the digital noise. There's a website, I love, somebody wrote their bio where they're like, hey, that's me. Yes, to the right of your screen. Or if you're on a mobile device, just underneath the picture. There was another one where these two older gentlemen said, the ugly mug on the left is Bob, and he loves this. And the ugly mug on the right is, that. So you can get so creative. Another great example, I've showed this before, is, let's see if they have it on our team page. They have their dog, the chief morale officer, and she has a little bio and everything. But these kinds of little touches go so far in making people laugh and smile and feel like, hey, this is going to be a company that I want to work with. So I know we're coming up on time here. Me and you can always talk forever. Let's make sure we have time for questions, but also leave people with some of your key ingredients for success.
Before I get to that real quick, I'll be real quick.
Yeah.
Think about our profession. Financial services does not have a lot of trust with the community for right reasons. There's been a lot of greed and things that have happened over time with investing and stuff that makes people not trust us. If you can break the mold of a suit and let people see that you're a human being and that you're a person, that you have personality, that takes that barrier down some, and they trust you already because you don't seem like somebody who's out to harm them. So I think have fun with it and let them see you. And that, if we all do that, that'll make our profession look better, which is why I love this stuff so much. And I'm so passionate about it, is if we all do this, I think our profession looks better in the eyes of the public, which is good for everybody. But keys to success: I think authenticity is key. You always have to be yourself, and not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. And that's actually a good thing, because that leads the right people to you, and it deflects the wrong people away, and you build a business of people that you like being around. Another reason to be authentic is who you are in your blog or your podcast or your videos needs to be who you are when they meet you in the office, needs to be who they are when they meet you at that Around Fishers event that I go to because I recommend it. You've got to be yourself at all times. Be genuine. I think that anything you do, whether it's the marketing or why we're in this profession, you've got to do things for the right reason. Create content because you want to educate people first. And if you do a good job of that, the business will come. I think that's hard to trust, but it works. Just trust me on that. I think it's important to have an opinion. And this was not something that was easy for me to do early on. Somebody asked me about my confidence in launching my firm. I never doubted myself as launching my firm, but to go out and put my flag in the ground on a planning technique or have an opinion was not something that I was very comfortable with. But as I've matured and I've been doing it more, and I realize that even if I am wrong, that's okay. I'm more confident in having an opinion. And people want to know you stand for something. So again, you're not going to be the right person for everybody, but take a stance, share what you believe in, and let the people who that resonates with come to you. And I think that you should experiment, have fun with how you tell these messages. And then I think the important thing at the end is, for me, this stuff is so much fun, and we can get caught up in what's the best way to market and doing our content. But don't lose sight on what your first job is and being a financial advisor. You've got to take care of your clients. You've got to be doing good work for them, or all of this content creation is worthless, because all you're really doing is bringing new clients in to replace the ones that you're neglecting and leaving on the way out. So I think my fear is sometimes the perception of me is I just like to do content. I'm not a serious advisor. I am a serious advisor. I just really love the content. And I don't want people to forget the fact that people are relying on us to help them make important decisions and alleviate their stress. And don't forget that.
I love that. I love that so much. So I love your point about not forgetting, who you are, which is an advisor first and foremost. So there's a lot of questions about 20 over 10 and, how we can help you. So I just want to point people in the right direction for that. So if you go to just 20over10.com. Again, you can find out more about our website platform and schedule a demo. You can also schedule a demo here and be connected with our team to learn more about Lead Pilot. So Lead Pilot is our all-in-one marketing automation tool that combines a lot of different tools that people need to grow their business. So social media scheduling, content that you can edit, ghostwritten content. Nothing is automatically done for you, but you can put together these really beautiful drip campaigns. Or when I say nothing's automatically done for you, what I mean is we don't push out the same piece of content to every subscriber at the same time on the same day. The approach is you go in, you can pick and choose which pieces that you want to automate and schedule out. And everything is deployed on these beautiful landing pages where your logo is there, your photo links back. So rather than having to build out a landing page for every event, every piece of content, it is auto created for you. And we do have these really amazing drip campaigns that are one of my favorite features. You can create custom campaigns. So, Justin mentioned the first Monday of every month, I want an email to go out to all my clients. You can do that here very, very easily. Or it could be once a month, I want a newsletter to all of my prospects. Or you can come in here and use one of the pre-made campaigns we have. And you can say, I just want a campaign for Facebook for prospects, or I want just something that's just email where I'm trying to convert people to book a meeting. So there are very specific types of campaigns for different types of people. And when you click on them, you'll get more information about what's included in that campaign, the types of the target content, the length of the campaign, the articles that are included. But again, we really believe in customization and personalizing all this and telling your story. So once you choose it, you can go in and completely customize or edit any of the pieces and make it really specific to you. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely connect with our team and we'll be happy to share more. And I just want to leave you with where you can find me and Justin if you have questions for us as well. So Justin, this is your, where did it go? Your Twitter, right? We'll pull that back up. You can follow Justin here. You're on Twitter often, so that's a good place to connect with you. And then on LinkedIn, my handle is Samantha C. Russell. Certainly, I would love to connect with all of you. And I try to post daily as well, something that will help you market your business better. And then Justin, there you go. I knew you were right at the top. And here is Justin's LinkedIn, and he's also sharing all great stuff too. Anywhere else you would suggest people go? I know you have a podcast. Where can people find you if they want to get more of your content?
The best place to go is justincastelli.io. That's like my
Okay.
website that directs you to any and everything you might want to find. I would just say LinkedIn, I feel like is a good opportunity. So many people do LinkedIn poorly that if you do it right, I think you'll stand out. So depending on your audience, if they're on LinkedIn, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And that's where I'm spending more time on the advisor side for my ventures there.
Yeah. And I think the one thing, for people who maybe don't realize with LinkedIn is there's such an opportunity to share more personal stories on LinkedIn. It's forever been like a professional only. So I shared one recently and it was like about out of office messages. And I had a picture of my family and us on the beach. And it was like, people always say I'm out of the office with limited access to email, but who really has limited access to email anymore? So instead, be honest, tell people I'm taking a vacation with my family and I'm trading in looking at my phone to looking at their beautiful faces on the beach, and just be real. And I can't tell you when I put that up, the email up itself, I had hundreds of people respond saying, enjoy your vacation. Don't worry about my email. Get back to me whenever. And then when I shared it on LinkedIn, it went viral. And so many people loved it, reshared it. So you can weave personal stories into whatever advice that you're sharing, which is the main takeaway. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your awesome advice. I feel like we could do this for hours and hours and hours, but we will let everybody have their afternoons back. I hope you all learned something valuable today. Justin, thank you so much for being here, and happy holidays and happy new year to everyone. 2020 is almost over.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Okay, bye-bye.